Welcome into TYT's The Conversation. I'm your host, Adrienne Lawrence, and joining us today is a neighbor from the North. She is a former member of parliament in Canada, where she served as parliamentary secretary to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. She also happens to be the author of an upcoming book, Can You Hear Me Now? Welcome in, Celina Caesar-Chavannes.
Hello, Adrienne, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm even better after brightened by that beautiful pink blouse you are wearing.
Thank you so much, thank you.
Yes, and so Celina, like yourself, Can You Hear Me Now is a game changer. What makes your upcoming book so unique?
Well, I think it's really, it's a memoir, but it really is an authentic story where I talk about, my life's journey. I talk about all my mistakes, very candid about my mistakes, my vulnerabilities, my pains, my hurts. And I augment those with some of the strengths and joys and just triumphs that I've had. And put it together in a story that culminates my life from entrepreneurship to politics, growing up, and everything in between.
Wow, it sounds like it's been impactful. What really encouraged you to write this book?
Well, really, it stemmed from my last couple of years in politics. Being one of 338 Black women in the 42nd Canadian Parliament, it was really important for me to ensure that my story, the history of me being there, was authentically written. And for your American viewers, some of you may or may not know that it was a challenging time. It was a time where I was gaslighted. I received so many different kinds of challenges while I was there. I really wanted to make sure that that story was told, and then go back and sort of tell my whole story and give the lessons that I learned as well.
Wow, that definitely sounds like it's something that you had in your heart that you wanted to share. And I understand that authenticity is extremely important to you. And so when your readers walk away from Can You Hear Me Now, what message do you want them to take with them?
Oh, that's a great question. I want them to know that when they make mistakes, when they have pains, when they have hurts, that they're not the first one that's made it. First of all, they'll be able to read the book and say, Celina made a lot more mistakes than I did. But then they'll also be able to know that somebody is walking with them, that they have somebody there that is very vulnerable and very open. And I think that when we tell our stories are sticky, and we're able to connect a little bit more in terms of our humanity, some of that frayed humanity that's been lost with the divisiveness of the last maybe 4 or 5 years in particular, that split across the border. I think that we need to reestablish some of that.
Absolutely, and you know what? Yeah, you kind of already hit the nail on the head, because I want to talk a little bit about your work in politics. And from your vantage point as a Canadian with experience in this political realm, how has the recent change in administration in the United States, going from Trump to Biden, how has that been viewed by those in your country when it comes to leadership?
Well, first of all, I should say congratulations, Americans, for pulling one out for the rest of us as well. But I know, you know what? Really, I think the focus has been 2020, talking about racial inequality. And American media really consumes a lot of the oxygen globally, even here in Canada when it comes to news. But Canada has its challenges as well, as our government has its challenges in terms of Black communities here in Canada. And sometimes that gets lost. But I really wanted part of the book to highlight that no matter what the title is, no matter how big that title is above my head, those inequalities, those microaggressions, that racism hits us all, no matter what level we reach.
Absolutely, and also, as you kind of already touched upon, the fact that there are challenges and racism that go on. I have heard a lot about the Indigenous community up in Canada and the mistreatment that goes on. And I know one of the reasons you got into politics was to make a bigger difference in the world. How has that experience been for you when you kind of look back on all the places you've been?
Well, you're absolutely right. Indigenous populations in Canada are still governed by an Indian Act. which govern the population, the indigenous population here, and that's been in place since 1876. There has been, of course, missing and murdered indigenous women, but when we look at Black communities, I know that your government had talked about repealing mandatory minimums. We had an opportunity to do that in 2015 when I was in government, and that was not done. And we had a majority government, and we still have an overrepresentation of Black and indigenous people in our federal prison systems. Right now, there's a class action lawsuit launched by former Black employees of the federal public service. People who had worked for 20, 30 years that had never received a promotion are filing this suit. There's a lot of things that we need to do in Canada as well. And I think that we might be, a beacon to the north, but there's so much work that we need to do here in terms of justice, healthcare, education, child welfare, the list goes on and on.
Yes, it sounds like you've got, your finger on the pulse in terms of what needs to be done. And the thing is, you're not alone, because Lord knows the United States has a lot of work to do. And in terms of looking in the past, it seems that you were very invested in uplifting social issues such as mental health campaigns. Yes. And so when you look forward now into the future, into 2021, what change would you like to see focused on most?
I really want to ensure that we continue to raise awareness on mental health issues, raise awareness, most importantly, on equity. I think when we think about equity within our healthcare systems in particular, we're dealing with COVID right now. We know a disproportionate number of racialized people are impacted. Of course, it's going to impact their mental health. We want to get to a point where we have equitable outcomes for everyone.
Yes, that is definitely something that I would like to see come to fruition. And when it comes to the approaches being taken right now with Canada in terms of politics and its own nation, where do you see things going?
Well, the city of Toronto has done a magnificent job of starting to collect race-based data or disaggregated data related to COVID. I would say that needs to happen right across the board within all sectors so that we know exactly where the pain points are, and then we could be able to make adequate investments, adequate policies to address some of those issues. The United States does that very well in terms of collecting that data. Canada still has a long way to go, and I really want to see that continue as a policy change to ensure that we're addressing some of those issues.
Now, Celina, with this last administration and a lot of things that have gone on, we've heard a lot of individuals in the United States and Americans say, I would love to move to Canada. What is your response to them when you hear that?
Well, I remember the site crashing, the Canada's immigration site crashing when the Trump administration came in. And what I would really say to Americans is there's an opportunity to amplify the messages, the stories of injustices, especially to Black communities, because you have those big numbers and you have that captivating audience. Amplify those stories around the world. There's so many people who are struggling, and it really is an opportunity to shine a lot of light on other jurisdictions that are having just as many challenges throughout their systems, whether it's education, healthcare, or otherwise.
Addressing the issues and really kind of focusing on the needs of the people is what is extremely important for a lot of governments out there. And so hopefully we'll see more of that as we move into the future with all the issues that we have going on. And so I really want to loop it back just a little bit because I know we don't have that much time left. But in terms of talking more about your book, Can You Hear Me Now? In terms of the process of sharing a lot of your experiences that people can take away with them, was that difficult in unearthing the past?
It absolutely was, but I worked with a great editor, Ann Collins at Penguin Random House Canada. And she asked me a question very early on and said, Celina, do you want this book to hurt or to heal? And I said, I really wanted a book that could heal. I really wanted to be vulnerable with my story. I could have said all the great things that I've done in my life, but that's what Google's for, Adrienne. I wanted to sort of show that on this side where you see, the pictures and the house and the great job, that there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into everybody's life. And we have those shared experiences. And I wanted people to see parts of themselves in my story. And that's sort of what we're hearing from people who are reading the book right now. So I hope it resonates with Americans just as much as it does with Canadians.
What's next for you after this book resonates with so many?
That's just it. I'm really just enjoying this moment. I'm enjoying the process of celebrating the book with people. I'm enjoying hearing them giving me feedback about which parts really spoke to them. There's a lot to unpack: relationships with mothers, immigrant parents, struggles through university, entrepreneurship, and politics. So there's so much to unpack. I'm just enjoying the moment of hearing these stories and talking to people who are enjoying the book.
Oh, wow. Well, it sounds like it'll be an enjoyable read, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. When exactly does the book come out, and where can people buy it?
Well, it's available everywhere right now. It came out on February 2nd, and it's launched in the United States and in Canada. And Can You Hear Me Now is available through your local bookstores and online everywhere. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Celina. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Adrienne. I appreciate it as well. Thank you to your viewers.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.